Hey everyone! So today's video is a bit around Classic, Season of Discovery, Cataclysm, and why you're seeing a little bit less content from me around them at the moment. So I've been playing World of Warcraft for a really long time. It's a big chunk of my life, basically. I think when I first started playing, I was like many others in that the enormity of the world just drew me in. At that time, which doesn't feel like a long time ago at all, but in terms of technological advancement is kind of light years away. Communicating so seamlessly with other players from literal other countries was incredible. I remember a guildie from Kuwait sharing photos and videos, telling me all about his life in his country. These days, if I want to know anything about Kuwait, I just Google it. But it was just such a huge novelty then. So WoW for me was a combination of social factors and escapism initially. First and foremost, the way the world persisted when you logged off, taking flight points, and being able to see real people in the zones below you. It was nicer than the real world, I can tell you that much right now. Now, I've always been a bit of a collector, whether it be shoes, mounts, or in game currencies. Over time, as the novelty wore off, I became attached to everything I'd acquired achievements in game, Run First titles, guild achievements. Real life called me back for increasingly long periods of time, but I was always comforted knowing that I had my own little place in Azeroth. It was still there and I could go back at any time. The new Azeroth low, as the years went on, didn't always suit me. It didn't feel like it was for me. I wasn't really convinced by recent storylines. Things were either too dark or too bright. So I retreated into Classic WoW, which for years now has been my new home, and for the most part, it's been perfect. I rarely play private servers, and the reason for that is that I dislike the lack of permanence. I actually played quite a bit of Warmane, Wrath of the Lich King during lockdowns, and I did have loads of fun, but I was still untrusting. It always lacked something for me. I thought I was going to wake up one morning and big changes would be made, or the server might just expire. So to me, Classic WoW was perfect. It was the game I knew and loved, but with the permanence and security of predictable old Blizzard behind it. But it was towards the end of Wrath that the cracks really started to show for me. Mistakes were starting to become more and more common, which is fine. Like a few, it's honestly fine. Like I don't mind mistakes. Everyone makes them. Small teams get busy. You're going to have mistakes, but I was starting to anticipate them and found myself altering my plans and actions around the idea that there's probably going to be mistakes. There's going to be bugs, right? I remember streaming one weekend in pre-patch and being like, there's a 90% chance that they won't be able to put the correct version of Darkmoon Fair into this pre-patch. So let's be ready to get to Darkmoon Island and see what they've done. But 12 hours before the fair was due, they said, nah, no fair. The Darkmoon Fair trinket market reacted and adjusted accordingly. It was short notice, but people kind of understood. I think many people like myself had anticipated that there was going to be a problem. Although the gold making community, I think at that point, did collectively wonder why it was so last minute. That was really our first experience of a overnight change that was just completely unexpected. It was expected, but for the wrong reasons. 3 days later, while I was sleeping, an NPC was put into the main cities for the DMF trinket hand-ins. That was a hot fix, and there was zero notice. I started feeling a little bit insecure. This was a Blizzard that I hadn't seen before. Changes were being made rapidly. No communication. I could see the retail players on Twitter complaining that it takes too long for them to get changes, waiting between patch cycles with little to no information. And I thought, well, I guess these are reasonable changes. Literally, no one asked for them, but they were reasonable. I mean, they were good changes. So putting the NPC in for the trinkets was a really good idea. It was a good change. It just came out of nowhere. The Cataclysm beta, bit of a mess. Players were questioning why, but not really getting any responses. The pre-patch event wasn't included. Again, no one really knew why. When Cataclysm pre-patch and Cataclysm itself went live, there was a staggering number of bugs left over from beta, and even some new ones. Again, mistakes happen, fine, but players had really questioned so many times during beta, is this ready? What's going on? Are we sure about this? And to then see it go live with no communication about players, querying the readiness, it again felt uneasy, felt awkward. And meanwhile, Season of Discovery was underway. It was really fun, brilliant at the start. Phase 1 was fantastic. As a player, I was still tending to gather and collect, even though it was seasonal. I knew that previous seasonal characters had been moved into the classic progression servers. I was pretty happy with Season of Discovery. It felt like it had all the fun and the benefits of like a really cool private server, but at the same time, it was Blizzard, good old dependable Blizzard. As Phase 2 drew to a close, I was still pretty happy. As a gold maker, Season of Discovery was great. There were a few things to keep me on my toes, but most of the systems just made professions feel brilliant. At the start of Phase 3, there were multiple gold rushes though. People were making thousands of gold overnight. Their hustle was then being hotfixed with little to no communication. The free gold flying around in this manner kind of invalidated gold that had been earned by normal player grinding in previous phases. I know within my community people were unhappy with the goings on. Again, things were being hotfixed, there just wasn't very much information about them either. The changes were coming in quickly. I decided in phase 2 that it wasn't a good idea to keep investing in items. I stopped making any buy now calls and basically avoided the question when I was asked, because at that point I realised anything could happen. However, I know the community in general carried on, and at the start of Phase 4, investments were severely impacted by multiple changes. But it's Season of Discovery, so it's fine. Anything can happen. You shouldn't make investments if you aren't prepared for them to fail. However, a lot of the players who were impacted by the changes, the more severe ones, so around the Transmute Mastery, for example, they were players who'd actually really stuck with Season of Discovery through the whole of Phase 3. They'd been transmuting every day, and it felt like it really was a bit of a kick in the teeth to them. There could have been some acknowledgement of that. There could have been some prior notice of the change happening instead of it just being bunged in there. And then the classic error fiasco happened. What first looked like a patch day mess was then confirmed after it happened as being deliberate. But classic error isn't Season of Discovery, so why were there no patch notes? Why wasn't this communicated weeks in advance? Even if you're going to say, all right, they did it on purpose because they thought it was really good changes and they were bursting for you to have them. Okay, but those changes were on the PTR for like a week. There was plenty of time to communicate that before it happened. A week later, as suddenly as it happened, the changes got reverted, along with a nice note to say, no more immediate changes, guys, except this one. This one's immediate, but no more after that, obviously. Meanwhile, in Cataclysm, while I was sleeping, not that I even sleep excessively, the Dark Moon Fair got pushed to fortnightly instead of monthly. Again, I just want to make clear here, it's a great change, positive. Who could possibly argue that change? But why wasn't this communicated before? It had a huge impact on the Dark Moon Fair trinkets, which really was involving a lot of players' gold making and gameplay loop at the time. So again, just to make clear, there was nothing wrong with this change. It was a good change, but it should have been communicated before it happened. In the last round of developer interviews, Mr. Pandaria Classic was neither confirmed nor denied. So what is coming after Cataclysm? When will it end? We still don't know. Do Blizzard know? It's the same for Season Discovery. There is no current ideal transfer point. So I'm still playing Cataclysm Classic, and I'm also still playing some Season Discovery because they are really fun. But right now, I've not been able to create as much classic content as I was previously because the uncertainty is just a bit much for me. So I'm still here. I'm still going to be playing and making classic content. But for the next little while, The War Within is probably going to be my main game. Once the constant changes calm down and we know a little bit more about the future of Classic, I'm likely to be back fully. So thank you for watching today, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on my point. I know the things that are important to me aren't the same for everyone, and there's definitely a strong case for rapid fire changes. So maybe just while I don't like it, maybe you do. And again, just to confirm, I really like Classic. I've been really enjoying playing Cataclysm, and I've been really enjoying playing Season Discovery. But the constant stream of unexpected is just getting a bit much for me. From a professions and gold making perspective, I would just prefer a little bit more certainty. So that is all from me today. Thank you very much for watching. Please do take a moment to like and subscribe. And thanks a lot for your time today. Cheers. Bye.